Hey,
Hey, what's up?
not much. How are you doing?
Uh, Pretty good. I'm kind of
Uh,
getting burnt out.
oh yeah. How's that
Yeah.
storm?
Say what?
How's that storm?
Uh, it's better now. It's mostly dried up, so that's good.
Got it.
Um, I wrote down. Let's say it's about. I wrote down some questions from the last Altius I went through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like I'm getting to the point where like I recognize most everything like I'm saying on tests, so I'm a lot more comfortable. So that's good.
That's good.
Um, Maybe we can do like one cars passage first before I like get tired.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Do you see this?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So, what do you think about? Is this a passage you've done before, or is it a new one?
I don't remember doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. I did it probably last year. I don't remember it though.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. One sec. Um. Okay. So we can do it the way that we did it before.
All right.
Okay, so in terms of like paragraph by paragraph, all right, so let's see. There are two ways by which the spirit of a culture may be shriveled. In the first, the Orwellian, culture becomes a prison. In the second, the Huxleyan, culture becomes a burlesque. So I would highlight Orwellian. You
So I
can
was,
double click on
yeah,
it.
that's
Mm-hmm.
forgetting.
Yeah. Um, and then highlight prison and highlight burlesque. Okay, so I don't know if you like. Of course, like this is outside knowledge. I don't know if you've read like books by these guys, like Brave New World and 1984 or Animal Farm.
I haven't read them. I'm a little bit familiar with them, but I haven't read them.
Okay, so it's funny because I remember going over this passage with someone maybe like a month or two ago, but it was
Oh, you know what?
already.
You're right. Maybe I should skip this one. I remember watching that. I wasn't like paying a lot of attention. Should I
Got
skip
it.
it? Because I
Uh,
want to like. I don't
yeah.
want it to like. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I remember. I remember that now.
Uh huh.
Okay. I was just trying to find like a harder, like a more philosophy. 'Cause those are the ones I do the worst. I mean, it doesn't matter. I just tend to do worse with the philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain ones like I'm more into, and like I'm more. I don't know. Like I'm just more interested in. Let's. All right. Let's go. Let's do this one.
Okay. All right. I don't think I've done this one before,
Okay.
so
Cool.
this is
Yeah.
good.
All right.
Um, Let me just check something. Let me just see if I have done this. One sec.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I did up to. This is 12. Oh, wait, it's different for me. I think you're... Wait, are you in Cars Pack 2?
Man Cars Pack 2, yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right. So I guess we'll do it together. Wait, what? For me, it goes from... Alright, I don't know why, but forget it. But anyway, I don't know why for me it's skipping passage 11, but whatever. Okay, let's see. So, unlike a lie, which is a conscious and deliberate attempt to mask the truth, a myth is not malicious, but simply naive. Okay, so they differentiate between a lie and a myth right away. So I would say like... Wait, yeah. You can highlight lie.
Okay.
So I'd say lie, like after highlight also conscious and deliberate. And then after myth, highlight, I guess, not malicious. And then highlight naive. So, I mean, you, like, tell me, like, what that means, basically. I think you...
I mean, I pretty much get it. They're just differentiating between a lie and a myth. And like a myth, I mean, basically what it says. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's not malicious.
Yeah.
It's just not, yeah.
That's why, you know, myth
lying is consciously,
exist.
like, deliberately, you know, masking. Sure, yeah. That was pretty easy.
Okay, good. So, let's see. It concerned something we formerly believed, but have since outgrown. It speaks... They're really talking about myths. It speaks of marvelous encounters between gods and mortals, tells of wondrous supernatural creatures, and explains how things and people came to be the way that they are. Today, however, we have put away such childish things. We know that once upon a time is a time that never was, a time unmeasurable by historical methods, a time existing only in the fancy of storytellers. To answer the question of human limitations by referring to the story of a forbidden fruit is like telling the tale of how the leopard got its spots. Simple ideology or explanation in the manner of Kipling's Just So stories will not do for sophisticated moderns. Okay, so he kind of talks some more about it in terms of time periods.
Okay, like, I feel like he was sort of giving examples and, like, trying to support, like, what he's going to argue, I guess. I just feel like he was going on a tangent and, like, going on, like, just, I don't know, going...
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get it, but, like, I was a little lost with, like... I get what he was saying at the beginning, like, we put these away, once upon a culture. Like, he was just, like... I don't think he really said anything. Like, he was just...
So what I get... So first, you know, he explains the difference between a lie and a myth.
Yeah.
Then he talks about, like, time, like, periods. Like, today, right? Modern, sophisticated moderns. He basically is saying that for modern people, it's not good enough for us to just be told myths. Like, if we want to ask how things happened, right? Like, you know, forbidden fruit is, like, an example of, like, in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Adam and Eve, right? The apple. And, you know, back, you know, 2,000 years ago or more, that was enough. If you wanted to ask about, you know, how is it that humanity, like, humans exist, it was enough to just tell you, like, myths, like, you know, things like, and also once upon a time, that's how lots of, like, fairy tales start. So so there was a time when that would be sufficient, but for us sophisticated, you know, moderns, we now require, we require some more evidence, I suppose.
Gotcha. And reading it, like, it's harder for me to do it, like, with you, like, at the same time, like, reading, I comprehend better when I'm reading it, like,
oh, yeah.
by myself, you know what I'm saying? But, like, I kind of got that a little bit, but I sometimes, when they go on these tangents and talk about a lot of things, I get a little bit lost in it.
Yeah.
I do find sometimes, like, I pick up, if I didn't get it there, sometimes I'll pick it up later, or the question will make me
That's good.
All right.
But yeah, like overall, what we're doing, remember, is we're just separating the wheat from the chaff, and there's a lot of chaff and a lot less wheat. That's just like, a saying, but we're just.
If I don't get it, go ahead, sorry. If I don't get it, like, the first time, should I just keep reading, or, like, sometimes I'll go back a little bit, but I try not to get too bogged down in the details, because
yeah. That's exactly what you should be doing. Don't get bogged down in the details. Be able to separate the details from the actual, like, statements that, are relevant to the person's argument. Because there's only going to be, like, a few, like, words or statements that, are kind of like the skeleton of the entire piece, and everything else is just like fluff and just padding. So be able to separate between the two. So don't get bogged down in details. If they will specifically ask you questions about details, that is when you go back and look for it.
Okay.
I just mentioned, like, things like Once Upon a Time and Forbidden Fruit to kind of like to kind of like explain what he's trying to say in terms of, like, today, right? We've put away these childish things, like, those childish things being, myths, and just to separate essentially, like, time period. Like, in the past, we were satisfied with myths. However, now we're more sophisticated and we require a higher standard of evidence. So yeah. So maybe I would say, let's see.
If I was reading through it, I probably wouldn't highlight any of this. Like, I would just know in my head there were 2 examples here, and I would, like, go,
yeah. I mean, like, maybe I would just highlight, like, today, however, or something. True. Just to have that additional time element there. Yeah, and the today part. So that just basically means today we're not really going to be using myths the way that we used to. Like, a mythological explanation is not enough for us anymore. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. The next paragraph. The story of the Western world is, in effect, a story of demythologization. All right? So, if it is true, as Freud believed, that the life of a culture, like the life of an individual, passes through definite stages of growth, then it becomes possible to read the history of Western culture as the poignant and painful story of children who, in their progress toward maturity, cast off all their illusions.
Yeah, that was pretty simple. So he was just comparing it to Freud, basically saying the Western world's become more mature and evolved over time, like we were talking about. We've cast off these illusions, I guess, to the myths.
Yeah, so he's basically applying, like, what Freud said about individuals going through, like, people going through different stages in life. Like, when you're a kid, you believe in Santa Claus and, like, the Tooth Fairy. Then as you grow older, you realize that those aren't really true. He's now using that, he's applying that to cultures. So he's saying that, yeah.
If I was doing this, like, I might have highlighted maybe, like, Western culture cast off illusions, or I might have highlighted, I don't know if I needed to highlight that, I knew where it was. Maybe I would have highlighted Freud, I don't know.
Yeah, I would maybe highlight, let's see, Western culture. Yeah, Western culture, story, children, cast off, illusions.
Okay, cool. So I was on the right track there.
So
right.
That's just basically applying the culture aspect, or applying or thinking of culture as an individual. So basically, like the history of Western culture as the painful, the story of children who, as they become more and more mature, they cast off their illusions.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Let's see. A brief history of demythologization might begin with Xenophanes, a Greek thinker who lived 6 centuries before the Common Era. Surrounded by people who believed in the literal reality of Zeus, Hera, Apollo, and the rest of the Homeric gods, Xenophanes struck a surprisingly modern note when he insisted that the gods were projections of the human mind, mere anthropomorphic inventions. If horses and cattle could draw, he said, they would draw gods that looked like horses and cattle. Any words here that you don't know?
Nope. I would just take that he was like from this paragraph that
anthropomorphic.
Or which word?
Anthropomorphic.
I can't put it in words. Anthropomorphic invention.
So let's break it up into the anthrop part and morph part. Morph refers to the form.
Yeah.
And anthrop refers to people. So like if you're a misanthrope, you don't like people. If you're a philanthropist, you like people. Anthropology is like essentially the study of people, like humans. Essentially human. So anthropomorphic means that we look at things. We look at things by projecting human features onto them. So, for instance, like all of our gods, right? Like in Christianity, they say like, God created man in his own image. But really, it's just because we are men, like human. We can only conceive of a God that looks like us.
Yeah.
So we anthropomorphize things. So he gave the example that if animals like a horse or a cattle, right, like did the same thing, they would draw gods that look like them, right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This paragraph was basically, I feel like the idea was they introduced I'm probably saying it wrong, Xenophanes, and it was surprising that he basically took a different perspective on this. Like he didn't believe the literal reality of Zeus and all of them, the gods.
Yeah.
And that's when he did that comparison. Yeah.
I would highlight maybe demythologization, and then begin, and then Xenophanes. So this is in line with his major, like, seems like his like overall argument that Western civilization, the story of Western civilization or Western culture, is that of demythologization. So, okay. Then let's see. If in the service of demythologization, Xenophanes was the first to propound a theory of projection, Euhemerus, I believe, posed the view that mythology has its origins in history. Okay. That's very different from what Xenophanes was saying. Euhemerus proposed that the gods were actual historical individuals. Oh, okay, interesting. Most often monarchs, whose lives and deeds became wildly exaggerated by the popular mythological imagination. As proof of his theory, Euhemerus cited the extraordinary career of Alexander the Great. Interesting. A historical figure who in his own lifetime was worshipped as a god. Euhemerism was well received in the Greco-Roman world, and at the beginning of the Christian era, it provided religious polemicists with a method of denouncing pagans. Interesting.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
I would say I would highlight Euhemerus, like
first time or the second.
The second, like right after that sentence, or maybe you can highlight that version.
There and I see. There's third. Okay, so
you can highlight that first one.
Okay.
And then mythology. And then like origins. In that same sentence. Yeah, origins and then history. And then gods. Yep. And then, historical individuals. And then maybe exaggerated. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. He's talking about so this other guy's saying that basically certain myths actually have origins in history. It's just that a historical figure, and he uses the example of Alexander the Great, who, was mythologized. Like, basically legendary, like, people, like, legends, kind of have their sources, or may have their sources in actual individuals who have lived.
Which is why, obviously, the Christians like that, because it allowed them basically to have an argument against the pagans. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, say that again?
Which makes sense why the pagans like this idea, because it allowed them to kind of like denounce paganism, and it kind of like allowed them to take, have more, I guess, authority in their minds of their religion.
You're talking about in the beginning of the Christian era?
Yeah.
Yeah. It says it was well received in the Greco-Roman world because it kind of substantiated their beliefs in the myths. And then in the beginning of the Christian era, for a different reason, like it gave them, people who were religious and like really extreme about it, it gave them a method to denounce pagans by saying, yeah, like your God is really just an actual like regular dude or person. That, and it was just exaggerated.
Yeah, cool. So it's just two different viewpoints from Euhemerus versus Xenophants.
Yeah. I would even maybe highlight Xenophanes and then maybe like maybe theory and then projection. Yeah, you can do the what is that? Option H. I think it's like a button.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it on my Mac. I don't think it works on my MacBook.
Yeah, it's like it's a different one for Windows. It's Alt H. For you, it'll be like maybe Command or something.
Tried Command H. Let's see, Option H. Oh, Option H. All right.
Yeah, all right, you got it. That's just a good fast way of doing it. Like I usually have like my like thumb on the right Alt button. For you it'll be Option, I suppose, and then my index finger on the H button, and then like my ring finger on the S button if I want to like do a strike through. So that's just a fast way of doing it. Okay, so we have two different pretty interesting approaches to look at how to view mythology. Okay, let's look at that next paragraph. Okay. So, religion is rooted in myth, and myth is rooted in illusion. This proposition seemed self-evident to two of the thinkers who have most influenced the 20th century. Karl Marx asserted that the mythical, otherworldly dimensions of religion blinded people to their true task, which is to convert this planet into paradise. Religion, he said, I knew they were going to use this quote, is the opiate of the masses. So that's Karl Marx, one of the two thinkers that most influenced the 20th century. All right, now they're going to say Sigmund Freud. And Sigmund Freud, religion was the obsessional neurosis of children destined to be outgrown as humanity evolved. And that kind of makes sense with what they said about, Sigmund Freud earlier. Freud believed that in the process of growth, humanity was bound to turn away from religion, and that the beginning of the 20th century marked the transition from childhood to maturity. So here I would say to highlight religion, myth, and then illusion. And then I would highlight Marx, and then basically, I mean, what do you think would be the best way for you to summarize what Marx said?
I'm basically just taking it as Marx basically believed that
maybe religion people.
Yeah, religion just blinded people. Mm-hmm. I'll just do Marx, religion blinded.
Yeah. And then I would highlight Freud. And then religion, and then children.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like sometimes, like, hold on, I'm trying to get. I have a laptop. I mean, I have a big screen too with like the keyboard, but anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I pretty much like had this pretty. I mean, I guess like can highlight it's good, but like I had this down pretty solid. Like,
yeah,
basically Marx versus Freud. I mean, that was pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then okay, then let's see. We have at long last grown up, emancipated ourselves from myth and magic, overthrown religion as a debilitating illusion. Naturally, there is a wistfulness, a nostalgia for the past, a longing to return to a world in which the gods were meaningful realities. Such feelings, however, will pass as we become accustomed to our newfound freedom and the joy of a consciousness liberated from bondage to superstition and myth.
So, like, I probably would have, I mean, I just want to see if I'm on the right track. I probably maybe would have highlighted nostalgia, past, and then at the end, he was just summarizing his thoughts about how basically we're gonna overcome being bonded like to religion, superstitions, and like we're gonna be liberated because it's like again he's summarizing what he said up here about the Western culture will eventually kind of grow out of it as we learn more in science, all that we can go forward.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about this question?
Which part?
Oh, the question?
Oh, we're going to the question now?
Yeah, I'll be right back.
All right. Major contention about mythology is that nostalgia for the loss of the myths of the culture is natural and healthy. I mean, he said here at the end that we have a longing to return to that, but I don't know that he necessarily said it was natural and healthy, so I would probably skip that. I don't think that's right. Natural, I feel like is kind of true, but I don't know about the healthy. I mean, myths will be replaced by coherent religions as humanity evolves. That's not true. He thinks we're going to grow out of it altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Myths are childish beliefs that will be outgrown as society matures. I'm not sure they said it was... Well, Freud's basically said it was an obsession of children, and I feel like the author kind of agreed with that. I guess I need to make sure I support that, but...
yeah, and that last...
No, he did. He said religion is rooted in myth, and it's an illusion, so I feel like that could be true.
Yeah, and then in the last paragraph...
I'll just read the last... Yeah, go ahead.
In the last paragraph, he does talk about his own beliefs. And he seems to agree.
Myth and magic.
He seems to agree with...
illusion.
Yeah. He seems to agree with
Yeah,
with
I didn't read D yet, but myths reflect primitive thought processes and will always be created. I don't know. That doesn't sound right. So I think that's wrong. So I would go with C.
Yep.
That was pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonable expectation for someone who accepts Freud's views on religion. All right, so I would go back to Freud. He was somewhere in here. Hold on. It was like in here, I think. No, it was down here. It was not here.
Yep.
Okay, Freud. I would probably read the questions first. I knew where that was. I knew what he was talking about. Freud's views, religious, will increasingly be considered mentally disturbed. He said it was more of an obsession that we would grow out of. I don't know if he said it was mentally disturbed. Conversions from cults to the major religions will increase. He definitely didn't say that. He said we would go over it. That's not all of me. Cancel that one. Whatever. There we go. Membership in non-religious organizations will increase. No, I don't think he said that. That's not. No. Wait, non-religious organizations. I think that's a distractor. Attendance at religious services will decline. Humanity is bound to turn away from religion. That's the answer. Probably this one. I don't think that's true.
Let's see. Membership in... That seems to be plausible. But D seems to be saying like the same kind of thing. So
Wow.
Let's separate C from D.
Okay, that's what I thought. So the only thing I was thinking, initially it was kind of leaning towards C until I read D, because C was membership in non-religious organizations will increase. I mean, that probably would happen, but I don't feel like that was inherent in the passage, because the whole passage was basically talking about religion.
Yeah.
I think it would be assumed that as we're turning away from religion was pretty much stated, because we were bound to it. So I would probably go with D, because it said, he was saying, well, the obsession will go away, so it would make sense that religious would decline. That's why I would pick.
So like D is saying that people will become less religious, whereas C is saying people will join more non-religious clubs. So
that's true too.
It seems like both of them are probable, but one like if people are less likely to attend religious services, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to just go to non-religious organizations, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah,
I would lean on D.
Yeah, that makes sense. Early Christians used humorism to argue what? So I would have to go back and look at humorism, because I might forget. So humorist was here. Also, we talked about it later. I don't think we did. It was right there. Okay.
And then early Christians, remember?
Yeah, which is at the bottom. Okay. Greco-Roman mythology. So they provided Christians use it. Greco-Roman mythology had no basis in fact. That's a strong statement. I don't think that's true.
So like
pagan god.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Nothing.
So go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No. It's okay.
Okay. Pagan gods were anthropomorphic projections. We did talk about that word, so I'd have to go back and look at that. I don't know if it was in this. Oh, it was up here. It wasn't in the same paragraph, though.
So who said that?
It was the Xenophanes.
Yeah.
So after saying that, I would probably roll that out.
Yeah, because that's what Xenophanes said, right?
Yeah.
But Euhemerus, what did he say?
He said that it was rooted in actual real people, and the other guy said it was like in the mind.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, that would obviously be C. I'll read D just to see. Non-Christian gods were glorified humans. No, because that's not it.
Wait. So look at where they talk about the early Christians, right? It's what you have highlighted right now, like not like highlighted, but you know.
Yeah, euhemerism was well received in the Greek-Roman world at the beginning of the Christian era. It provided religious polemicists with a method of denouncing pagans.
Yes.
Well, I think the Christians would use euhemerism because euhemerism suggested that their religion was rooted in actual people that existed. So if they could say that Jesus was a real person, wouldn't that be a stronger argument against them? Because I don't know, non-Christian gods were glorified humans.
Well, pagans believe in non-Christian gods, right? And they said that it provided religious polemicists, which are basically like extreme religious people who are like, I shouldn't say assholes, but who are.
Okay, I see that. So non-Christian gods were glorified.
Mm-hmm.
So the early Christians would believe. Hold on though, but I have a hard time understanding how they're using this argument then, because.
Mm-hmm. Because it says that it provides.
Wouldn't they say the non-Christian ones?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't they argue against the non-Christian gods? They would argue that non-Christian gods would glorify humans. I'm a little lost. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just know that I can't even say the word. Euhemerism
mm-hmm.
was used to say that their gods were actual historical individuals.
Well, that they were based on historical individuals, but they were exaggerated so as to achieve godhood. So the main thing to look at here is just that it provided, in the beginning of the Christian era, it provided the religious polemicists with a method for denouncing pagans, right? Because under euhemerism, the Jesus of Nazareth would just be some person who may have existed.
Oh, wait, it counters their argument.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I was misinterpreting that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think I didn't understand what they were saying here at first.
Mm-hmm.
This would support euhemerists would believe this to be true, but Christians would want to argue against
because they want to denounce pagans, right?
Gotcha. Because pagans would use this to say, "Oh, he was a real person, but he's not a actual god," because they're not religious.
Well, pagans would say that about their gods. Like pagans, for instance, wouldn't use euhemerism. They would say like, you know, that our God is real, blah blah blah, and then the Christians would say euhemerism or euhemer or whatever basically said that your gods are just glorified humans, like Alexander the Great.
Oh, I get it now. Okay, I get it. Yeah, so I would have gotten that one wrong.
So
I went a little fast with that because I felt confident in it.
Yeah. So the main thing here is just that, like, for instance, if you were to use euhemerism on Jesus, you would say that Jesus didn't necessarily, like, because Christians would argue that Jesus is the Son of God, right? But euhemerists would believe that Jesus has some historical basis, sure, but, you know, it would basically say that Jesus of Nazareth is a glorified human. Euhemerism is a way to basically take a myth and make it like and expose it as being not real. Because remember how they said the story of the Western world is demythologization, and that started with Xenophanes and Euhemer in the ancient world, and then in the modern world, Karl Marx and Sigmund Freud. And all of this goes towards demythologization. So all of these people, if you use anything that any of these people used, like Xenophanes or Euhymer or Karl Marx or Sigmund Freud, it's going to be a way to basically demythologize something. So you can't use it to mythologize something, because Christians would mythologize Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a very trick, choice right there. See?
Yeah, because it was true, but it wasn't answering the question.
Yeah, so that's why,
I misunderstood what C meant at first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, from doing this enough, you'll start to get a sixth sense for this, because I knew that they were going to ask something like that. That's why when we went over this passage, just this paragraph, I kind of spent some time on saying that in the beginning of the Christian era, it provided religious polemicists with a method, with the method being Euhemerism, to denounce pagans, to say that the pagans are wrong. So they're saying
I get it. So I get it. So it's basically two sides of the argument, because the Christians would say they were wrong basically, and their gods were not. Yeah, they were glorified. Okay.
Because Euhemerism is just a way to demythologize. So if they used it on themselves, then it wouldn't work. So but they would use it on other people to.
I think I just wasn't careful enough, maybe reading that the first time, and I went a little fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Author's attitude toward mythology can best be described as patronizing, nostalgic, uncomfortable, antagonistic. He wasn't uncomfortable with it. I know that. He mentioned nostalgia, but I don't think that was how he described it. And actually, there was a nostalgia. He wasn't describing it that way, I don't believe.
Yeah, he can acknowledge that there is a nostalgia associated with mythologizing something, but overall, he thinks that it's something that we must grow out of, right? Something that's childish.
Yeah, I don't think he was saying he wasn't saying, I don't think he was being antagonistic. He was making an argument, but I think he was more patronizing it.
Mm-hmm. Because patronizing means what?
A hard time putting this in words. Basically, it's antagonistic would basically be he was starting an argument and being super critical of them and nasty, versus patronizing was just almost condescending. He was just kind of
he's it's okay, they're naive, they don't know better.
Yeah, that's how I
childish. But we
antagonistic would just be totally argumentative with them. Yeah, so I would have picked it.
Antagonistic wouldn't have all the stuff that says naive, not malicious, etc. So yeah, good job.
Plus, plus he wasn't the natural, it's natural to be have nostalgia. He wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have not been. Yeah. Cool. Passage suggests Marx and Freud, and that was down here somewhere, right here. Propose controversial ideas that have been discredited. Their ideas weren't discredited.
Mm-hmm.
Contributed significantly to the history of Western thought. I know that's true, but I need to use the CARS passage to support that.
So yeah, why don't you see where they mention? Yep. See, how that starts. What before he introduces them?
Influenced 20th century.
Yep. Two of the thinkers who have most influenced the 20th century.
Started movements that restricted religious freedom. He did. The author wouldn't agree with that, so he's definitely wrong.
Yeah.
Hinder the moral progress. It definitely didn't. It would advance it, so it's B.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's it. All right, cool. Yeah, that one wasn't too bad. I hate that I got this one wrong, but yeah, It is what it is.
That's the sometimes it can be.
I think sometimes I do have a tendency, especially when I get stressed under time, like to misinterpret part of the passage. And it sucks because like sometimes after I see it in the answer explanation, but like I didn't see it the first time. Like I've gotten a little better at it, but sometimes I get lost in thought and I make mistakes and pick answers like that that were sort of true but not true.
Yeah. So that one, like, it's just in that subtle part that's said at the beginning of the Christian era.
Yeah.
And then, thinking of euhemerism as a method to demythologize.
Yeah. So, but I felt like, this passage, I used the right strategy. I was better at going back to the right words, and I eliminated things like smartly. I feel like I didn't just I supported most of it, so I feel I feel better at that.
Yep.
Yeah. I haven't been doing a lot of cars practice. I probably need to do a little more, but I'm about to start taking the remaining FLs, so I'll get more cars practice doing those. I don't know what else to do as far as cars. I've done so much.
Yeah.
I feel like now it's at the point where it's just about being careful to the details, but also not overanalyzing either. Because I notice sometimes I'll get on a question and I'll just get stuck for 5 minutes. Like the last time we met, I was really tired. Yeah. And I noticed it's really brutal for me to go to cars right after the chem physics.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And if I had a 30-minute break then, it would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I just get anxious, and I know I need to just accept, if you screwed up on some of the last section, it is what it is. You still got to do all this. It's just tough.
You could try taking doing a breathing exercise or something during that break.
Yeah.
Or just take
bad reading anxiety
stuff. Yeah. If you hold in, if you inhale for 4 seconds, if you inhale and hold for 4 seconds and then exhale. Sorry.
If I'm on cars, I just noticed when I've taken real practice tests, I end up with 2 passages left and I'm running out of time and there's nothing I can do because I get so stressed. I try to just get the best answers I can. I know is it around 10 minutes per passage?
Well, yeah. I mean,
I know some of them are 6 or 7 questions, but generally it's 10 to 12 minutes a passage.
Yeah, usually I would write out some type of thing where when I'm on this question or this passage, how much time I should have. I would write something out like that.
It just sucks because I feel like sometimes I don't want to go against my natural tempo. Yeah. Because if I try to read too fast, what happens is I lose reading comprehension.
Yeah.
I do notice a lot of questions I feel like I can answer without really knowing the passage that well.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit frustrated with that overall, but I don't know. I'll just keep practicing.
Yeah. You're getting better, and we're taking a very, very slow approach. And that
I did good at reading comprehension in school. I honestly aced grammar, all my papers and stuff. It's just I always did great at reading comprehension. This reading comprehension test is a little different. It's I don't know. It's not that it's not straightforward. It's just different. I don't know. It's been an adjustment.
Yeah. No, it's definitely the harder type of reading comprehension problems compared to other types of tests. Because I've basically done them all, and these are definitely the toughest.
And it's something I don't practice either. When I was studying all my science classes, we weren't taking philosophy classes. I took a little bit of intro stuff just because I had to. But I didn't study any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I wrote down. I'll try to skip back just some ones from the CP section. I am feeling a lot more confident, even still missing stuff on CP. I feel like I know what everything is now. Anything they throw at me, I feel like there's a way to get to it.
Good.
My math has gotten a little better. I'm not perfect, but my math really sucked. It's gotten a lot better. I'm getting more math questions right. I'm getting a lot more of the formula algebra ones right. So that's good. I think this is a test I'm taking right now. Let me just find one. Hold on. So this one. Oh, wait, never mind. There we go. Did I write this one? I think I already said why this one was. So the electrolytic versus galvanic reactions. I guess I didn't read. I wasn't paying attention, but basically they were saying like due to the power supply of a electrolytic cell, like it requires like a power supply.
Yeah.
You need that to drive the reaction forward versus a galvanic cell does not.
Yeah, I in the notebook, in the OneNote notebook, I go over that. I have I think 2 pages.
Yeah, I saw your picture. I just haven't gone over yet. I thought I understood this pretty well, but yeah. So I feel like I understand that. So yeah, oh yeah. So it's so the electrolytic are non-spontaneous, correct? They need a power supply versus galvanic are spontaneous.
Yeah.
Okay. I think if I knew that, I would have gone.
Simple example I could use is the battery in your cell phone or on your laptop.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that's it's a concentration cell using lithium ions, and that, since it works as a battery, it converts chemical energy to electrical energy, and when it dies, eventually it reaches equilibrium. When it dies, right, you need to plug it in. So when it's dead, aka reaches equilibrium, right, meaning that, because it starts off with a higher amount of lithium positive ion at one end of the battery and a smaller amount of lithium positive ion at the other end. And once you connect it to a circuit, electrons will go from the more positive end to the more negative end. And, it's going to keep doing that until basically there isn't that, because that's a concentration differential with more positive at one end, more negative at one end. But as that positive end sends electrons to that negative, to the, the other end or whatever, it becomes basically there's no longer a separation of charge. So that galvanic cell is dead. So that's why you have to plug it in and supply it with an external source of energy, in this case, electrical energy, to recreate, to reform that concentration gradient. So when it's a regular battery, aka a galvanic cell, it uses chemical energy to convert into electrical energy, and you can use that. And when you plug it in, you use electrical energy from an outside source to produce that chemical energy to basically recreate that potential.
Okay.
So they say that. So okay, since there's a power supply, right?
Yeah.
So that gives it away, that it's going to be an electrolytic cell.
Yeah, I forgot all that.
Yeah.
I know now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because if it was a galvanic cell, then it would be basically one titanium or the TA thing. What is that? That's tantalum. Basically, one is going to have a smaller reduction potential than the other. So, so basically there's going to be a redox reaction, right? Where basically electrons are going to go from the thing that has the lower reduction potential to something that has a higher reduction potential. So aka gains electrons reduction. So that redox reaction is going to it's going to cause that circuit, the electrons to move in that circuit.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get you to work me a little bit on, there might be some questions here on capacitors, because I forgot all that crap. I have a hard time with capacitors versus what's the other ones? It's similar to the
resistors.
Yeah.
Capacitors can be pretty tricky. I think it's one of the harder things that they test on the MCAT.
Yeah, I have one question on here I got right. It was just a calculation. I think it was it's a take on the kinetic energy for capacitors, and I got it right.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I'm not good at that, and I'm also pretty bad at optics. I've forgotten that. A lot of that. Okay, this question pissed me off, and I'm like really irritated because I had a question in eWorld that was just like it.
Yeah.
And in this situation, it was wrong. So a third Ca isozyme that exists only in certain species of diatoms utilizes a different metal center, and it was like which metal ion is most likely found in the active site. So where did it say where it was? Was it zinc? Yeah. So zinc 2 plus. I opened the periodic table. I don't think I can do it right now. But yeah, I can. No, they don't want you to open. Oh, here we go. Yeah. All right. So I'm frustrated because.
Yep.
I'm trying to move this over. Hold on. Okay, so I was between these two.
Yeah.
I knew you were wrong, and I thought that if it was in the same column, that would be the answer, because that's how it was on UWorld, one of them, because it was most similar. Because like, and hold on, I'll go back to it so I can show what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Trying to remember cobalt versus CD. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So CD is in that same column.
Yeah. Okay. So. Where did they say that? Hold on, I'm losing. Oh wait, I did say cobalt. I don't know why I said that now. Whatever. I think I was looking at mass. Oh, I think I looked at mass first because I saw this 58 was closer to 63. I think
closer to 65.
It was there was an example on UWorld where it was not this. It was very similar. It was like it may have been 2 below it or something. It was the closest. And they're like, no, it's not. It's actually this one. So maybe it was a special case or something, but it was really frustrating because I knew the rule about if they're in the same column, they're most similar or something like that.
Yeah. You're looking at zinc though.
Oh yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think there was I think it was with copper with you or something. But yeah, zinc. So CD is right there. I guess I saw such a huge difference in mass. I was like thinking the charge. Yeah. And I was probably overthinking because I'd seen a question that I got wrong in the past.
Yeah.
I knew what I just told you about the column being with somewhere, but. Yeah, there was another example. I don't know if it was copper and nickel, where like maybe it was one of these was not the same. I can't remember. Maybe if I find it in UWorld, but I was frustrated because I got something wrong that was like second guessing myself on. Yeah, I do that a lot.
Yeah. Think about, the electrons more.
I'm having a hard time with these kind of questions. With respiration. I don't know why. I think it's because I think that's getting back to like Gen Chem from forever ago, and like I know what blood alkalosis is and acidosis. I'm just having a hard time.
Yeah.
I can tell you what it is, but I can't put it in context of pressure.
Yeah.
And like, because like I know alkalosis is where your blood pH is too high versus acidosis is where it's too low. And like some of like the clinical manifestations.
What happens with CO2?
So that's where I was a little lost. Like I get confused. Like I know acidosis is where your blood pH gets more acidic.
Yeah.
Don't you have too much do you have too many protons?
So where does that come from though? It comes from an excess of CO2.
I don't
remember that like CO2 bicarbonate reaction.
Yeah, the buffer system formula.
H2CO. Yeah, they have it in reaction 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like if there's too much carbon dioxide, it's gonna become too acidic, and if it's too little carbon dioxide, it's going to be more basic, right? And since we're dealing with alkalosis, it's going to be more basic. So there's going to be less CO2 in the blood. So less CO2 in the blood, so what does that mean? So alveolar partial pressure, right? So basically, which is they're saying a direct result of. So alveolar, that's basically in your lungs, right? Partial pressure of CO2 in the lungs. And now, if you have less partial pressure of CO2 in the lungs, that means that it's less compared to outside, like outside of your body.
Okay.
And, you know, it goes from high pressure to low pressure, right?
Oh, so if you have high pressure in the atmosphere, it's low pressure in the alveoli?
Yeah, so I think these are just relative to the outside. Let's see. Cuz I'm trying to think of what. All right, let's see. Okay, so released from the blood to the alveoli. Breathing rapidly expels carbon dioxide at a rapid rate, which outpaces the rate at which it is released from the blood to the alveoli. Okay, got it. So if there's less alveolar partial pressure of CO2, that means that there's going to be I think that means that there's going to be less CO2 in the lungs. We're trying to look for any answer that would result in CO2 essentially leaving the bloodstream, or not enough of it getting into the bloodstream. So basically, CO2 from the atmosphere, you inhale it, goes into your lungs, right? And the alveoli of the lungs, that is full of capillaries, and CO2 that's in your lungs then enters into the alveoli, and that's where it goes into the bloodstream. The alveoli is like the interface between the lungs and the blood. So I think the problem here was with the language, because the ambient part I was kind of confused about as well. Because at first I looked at alveolar as meaning the lung, and ambient as meaning outside.
That's what I was.
But ambient actually means the lungs, and alveolar means basically it going from the lungs through the capillaries in the alveoli. Because you remember those, there's those sacs.
Yeah, gas exchange.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, that's kind of I think that's what makes this tricky over here.
I just feel like I had a hard time understanding this because I usually have a good understanding. At high altitudes, you're having to work a lot harder. I'm thinking of it in terms of exercise. At high altitudes, you're having to work a lot harder.
Yeah, that's what what's his name? Lance Armstrong did.
Yeah. I'm losing track of what it was called.
Oh, sorry.
What the type of training's called, and I have actually a science degree. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, yeah. So that's why a lot of athletes will train at high altitudes.
Yeah, because there's less oxygen there, right?
Yeah.
And so they have to their erythropoietin goes up, which is a thing that makes red blood cells. So they end up making more red blood cells. Too. Wait, what's that?
So that's why they blood dope too.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that since he actually did the training, he did it himself. He's using his own blood. I don't know why they took away his stuff. It's not like because you can buy EPO, erythropoietin, and inject that into yourself, and do it that way. But anyway.
Wait, so when you're at high altitudes, you're having to train really hard. like your whole system's overloaded basically. So what I was confused with is respiration increases obviously significantly in order to maintain blood oxygen. What I basically said, and then alkalosis, which is when you're really basic. I was like confused, I guess, chemistry wise with this. Like I'm getting confused with the like CO2, like when you blow it off or when it's building up still.
Yeah.
Like
I think this one I could have gotten wrong myself just because alveolar and ambient, I did not know what those meant. I
thought they were talking. Yeah, I thought when I read ambient the first time, I thought they were talking in terms of outside
me too.
the system.
Me too. Yeah. And alveolar, I thought.
Why do they bring up
lungs.
the high altitude? Yeah.
so I can see that. But now it makes more sense. Now that I think of alveolar, I think of the alveoli, and that is where it goes from the lungs to the blood. But I can see how this could be confusing because it was confusing for me as well reading it just now because I didn't know if they meant lung or outside, but they mean the ambient as lung and alveolar as like basically going into the blood.
So just to make sure I get this right, when you're basically high altitude training really hard and you're getting basic, the CO2 is not elevated? Like,
yeah.
You're blowing it off, right?
Yeah, there's respiratory alkalosis.
That makes sense. You're breathing so much that you're blowing off all that CO2. Versus if you're basic, you're not getting enough oxygen, which would make sense. Okay, I think I explained it myself. I think I just wasn't.
It's a language.
Like, I feel like it wasn't. This was like a really straight chemistry one, even though they tried to make it sound clinical and it wasn't clinical. It's
the language.
I have a hard time with that.
It's the language, honestly, because I would have gotten that wrong too. I feel
there's sometimes their LTS questions are a little strange. There's another one that I disagreed with. I got this question wrong. I was kind of pissed off too. And I'll make sure I understand this. Sound versus.
Okay. So for sound, it's like the opposite of anything else.
Yeah.
It travels faster as it goes into denser mediums.
And I had that part right.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So, and I know sound is the opposite of the light, right? As far as like sound is the denser versus the light, it's the opposite as far as
speed goes. Yeah. And same thing with anything else. It's just because sound is a vibration. It requires like light doesn't need a medium to travel through. So if you put it through something, like it's going to go like slower. Like 3 times 10 to the 8th, meters per second is in a vacuum, aka space. But once it goes into like air, it's gonna get slower because it's blocking it. But sound requires a medium because sound is just vibrations. So, for instance, like air, like the air molecules are like far away and stuff. So sound travels like 340, I think, or 330 meters per second. But as it goes through a solid, since it's vibrations and all the particles of a solid are closer together, that vibration can happen like instantly.
So I knew that, and I'm kind of pissed. I got to see your D.
Oh, just because of the transition parts.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, it made sense, I guess, when I read it, but like.
Yeah.
I thought that looked like a dumb graph. I was like, no graph looks like that. But
you're right.
They're saying, there's no gradual change. It's like sudden, is what they're saying, right?
Yeah, because the part that's not flat means that if you go from gas to water, there's going to be a moment where the speed of sound in water is equal to that of the gas. And that it has to gradually increase. Kind of like, like the phase diagrams, it kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
And then the phase diagrams, like the one that you chose, let's just look at that shape. In the phase diagrams, we do differentiate between the flat portions and the, non-flat portions. Because, let's say that it's like whatever temperature. Like let's say the y-axis is temperature, right?
Okay.
And let's say that the flat portion is actually like a solid. So as you add, like whatever, if you raise the temperature, right, of a solid, it's going to basically go up, like the portion of that graph that goes up, which means that all of the heat energy is going towards increasing the temperature, which means that it's going to make the molecules go faster. And then the plateaus, the flat portions, means that all that heat energy, instead of going towards temperature, because the temperature is going to remain constant, that's why it's flat, all that heat energy is going towards breaking the intermolecular bonds, making it go from solid to liquid, and then liquid to gas. So even in phase diagrams, we do differentiate between when the temperature is moving, it is changing, and when it's not. So here, what gives it away is just the fact that, because look, the one that you chose, it's good that you understand that it goes faster in denser mediums. That's the main takeaway here. But if it is true that they have to connect in that way, it means that in water, right, the speed of sound, there's going to be it's going to have the same speed as it does in a gas for a short period of time, right? Or for a short distance in this case.
Yeah, that's just suggesting there was a change in the speed versus it was the same. I just had never seen a graph like that. I think
Yeah.
I don't know. I knew the topic and I got the graph. It was just kind of annoying. I mean, I know now, but whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this looks nasty.
Let me find. Wrote it down. Which number am I on? 11. No, 16 is the next one, I think. Oh wait, not too far. Wait, why is it jumping around like that? No, it's doing that. It's jumping around the questions.
Maybe you hit review of things you got wrong.
I'll just go back. Maybe I did. I didn't click overall though. Try again.
Yeah, and all these look, much harder than the ones that are on the AMC, which is good practice. But, keep that in mind if, don't let it, affect your confidence or anything.
Okay.
I haven't seen
it. Yeah, it really hurt my confidence at first, but I feel like they're their questions are really analytical and they suck off the graphs, so I feel like it's been helping my math and stuff too.
Yeah. Think of it as resistance training.
You're
training at much higher weights over here, so your reps aren't going to be as high.
It's skipping. I don't know. Alti is stupid. I don't know why it's doing this. Whatever. I'll figure this out. I did not understand this question that well. ATP is an effective source of energy for coupled biochemical reactions because, I knew this wasn't true because when I thought of nucleotides, I was thinking the DNA and all that.
Okay, so this is another kind of, they use a different term because normally we think of it as a phosphodiester bond.
Yeah, that's why it threw me off.
They call it phosphoanhydride bond.
I've never heard of it called that before, so that's why I pulled it out. And I knew hydrolysis. I knew that was true. I knew this wasn't true. I guess I don't know why I went. I didn't know that. I guess the ATP wasn't spontaneous, but it makes sense now because it's not spontaneous because it requires energy. I don't know why I went with that. I went with that because this sounded like it was not true.
Let's see. Hydrolysis of the phospho. Why don't you Google phosphoanhydride bonds? Let's see if it is the same thing. The anhydride part is just like, I think it's like two different. It's like kind of like two different.
I know what I know what
carbonyls and stuff.
Yeah, I knew what an anhydride bond was, but I just had never heard of that before for ATP.
Yeah, me neither.
I think they intentionally just did it to make it a stupid hard question. Like.
Yeah, let me see. Phosphoanhydride bond. Yeah, it's the same thing. They just I'm used to calling it something else.
There's something, yeah.
It makes sense though, but no, I usually call it phosphodiester bonds. Wait, hold on. Okay, I got it. Okay, check this out. All right, so I mean here. Okay, this makes sense, and I learned something. So here, I sent you this. Wait, I don't think that's gonna work. Hold on. Copy image address. What? Okay. If you just Google image search phosphoanhydride bond, you will see the difference. And it makes sense now that I look at it. Because the ester phosphodiester bond is actually, it needs a carbon thing. Okay, so let's see. Yes, wait, like scroll down. Yeah, like you can X out of that one. Okay, yeah, see that one on the bottom left? It's colored. Bottom. Oh, yeah. So just go down. It's like, yeah, right there, where your cursor was before that.
Is that it? No. Okay.
So the one to the right of that.
I don't know. Okay, right here.
Yeah. So remember, an ester has to have, like, it has to be like a whatever, some carbonyl bond bound to an oxygen, which is bound to a carbon. Right? So that's the ester one. All these other ones are phosphoanhydride bonds.
I didn't know that. Wow, I did not know that.
Me neither.
I thought they all were. Okay, well.
Same.
Okay.
So we both learned something.
Oh, some BS. Okay. Well, I know if they throw that at me on the real thing, I know now. So.
Yeah, let me see that explanation. So let's see. Phosphoanhydride bonds can be hydrolyzed using an amount of energy similar to that required to break a hydrogen bond. This is due to resonance stabilization of the resulting ADP. Remember, if the product is really stable, that means that it's going to happen. So if, ADP is really stable, and it is because of resonance stabilization, then that means ATP is ready to turn into ADP. So let's see. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty tough one right there.
And I know now this was a bad answer because that's not true, but I think at the time I just was so thrown off by that. I knew this was wrong, and I was like, I guess I was thinking high energy spontaneous in my head.
Yeah.
Because delta G, yeah, it's fine. I realize ATP requires a, what do you call it? A high energy. What do you call it? Like the
Gibbs?
Yeah, no, but it doesn't require a pyrophosphate. Does it require that? I can't remember.
You said ADP?
I guess to get ATP.
Yeah, from ADP to ATP, yeah. You're going to need a pyrophosphate, which is just like a phosphate, I believe.
And that's why it's not spontaneous, right? Because it requires energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, if hydrolysis of that phosphoanhydride bond occurs at low energies, that means that there's going to be a lot of excess energy that can be used to couple to a different biochemical reaction, because that's what the coupling part means. It means that when you do something to like ATP, like break one of its bonds, right, and get it to be ADP, there's a lot of excess energy. Like the delta G would be like negative something, and that excess energy can be used to drive some other reaction that has like some non-spontaneous, some delta G of like maybe positive like 12 or something.
Okay.
So like ATP, like hydrolysis of the phosphoanhydride bond, could be like negative like 15, and if it's coupled to something that has a Gibbs free energy of positive 12, then there's excess energy that can be used to keep that thing going.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was just tricky. That's my next question. I need to skip around.
These passages look ugly.
Yeah. I don't remember AMC that well, but I guess like I haven't taken a practice test recently, but I guess these are more like the section bank.
Oh yeah, these are just overall harder, so it's good practice.
Like I got this one wrong, and I took microbiology, and I'm already forgetting crap. But like they acted like you could have gotten to it without, but I don't agree.
Yeah, that's like most of these things, right?
Yeah, so but like, I feel like this one really did require knowledge because there's differences between gram-positive, negative as far as like the what am I trying to do? There's different properties.
Yeah, so like I know the gram-negative one is like whatever, more evil.
I googled it and I'm already forgetting it because it's always hard for me to remember. Like I know the gram-positive retains the stain because it doesn't have the double layer or something that gram-negative has. That's why gram-negative stays pink or whatever. It's I guess it makes sense. Cross-bacterial outer membrane. That's why. Yeah. They don't generally ask that level of micro on the MCAT. Like I've seen a few gram questions, but this one was a little bit specific.
All right, let's just check this out for a sec. So, let me see the the question. So I'm gonna try to do it without reading it. So I see that. So untreated. So basically untreated, they're both whatever. There's a lot of them, and when you give the drug, it seemed to only work for the gram-positive, right?
Yeah.
So okay. So they're saying, what's even the question? Oh, based on these findings, the drug cannot. So let's see, prevent protein synthesis in vivo. So that just means that you can't. The drug won't work when it's in a live animal or whatever, alive, like in vivo versus in vitro, right?
Yeah, vivos, biological organisms, in vitros, and like petri dish. Yeah.
Yeah. So this doesn't really. This is telling us that in a petri dish or whatever.
Yeah, I forgot the difference between vivo and vitro. I was like, crap, because I could remember because I knew that they had done this in a broth culture. I guess I was in my head linking like, oh well, we didn't get growth here, so we didn't get the colonies. So I guess we didn't. We don't have proteins. I don't know. I was overthinking it because I could. Yeah, I don't know.
So I knew. So we don't. So it doesn't really tell us anything about in vivo or in vitro, right? So I would rule that one out. Let's see. Cross the bacterial outer membranes. Let's say I forgot that. Let's see. Interact with the peptidoglycan cell wall. I think both of them have that. I might be wrong.
They both have peptidoglycan. Yeah.
Okay. Bind to anabolic enzymes tightly. I don't think that's.
I knew that was
going to be it. So it's either going to be cross the bacterial outer membrane or interact with the peptidoglycan cell wall, and I think both of them have the cell wall. So, but I'm not sure about whether they both have outer membranes.
Yeah. So apparently, I think gram-negative has 2 versus gram-positive only has 1.
Yeah.
So that's why the gram-positive, like that's why the drug couldn't and that's why the drug couldn't interact with the gram-negative. It only interacted with the gram-positive because the gram-positive only had one like layer of the cell wall versus gram-negative had two. Like that was something you really content-wise need to know, or you're gonna have to guess. Like.
Yeah, but do you see how without knowing the content we can cross out A and D?
Yeah, but at the time I didn't remember what.
Yeah. Well, that you definitely need to know, and if you forget, think of like viv comes from like life, like vivacious or like vitality or all like it comes from like Latin or whatever to mean life.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, true. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and like vit is like glass, like vitreous humor, or yeah, lots of things like that.
I think I googled it and somebody said remember it in vitro fertilization. I think lab. So.
Yeah. I was gonna say that also.
I just forget all the time because I like I said, I wasn't trying to make connections to things. I was trying to memorize everything.
Yeah. Just remember that prefix, that word vivo, like VIV, means life. Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what. I don't know why they're skipping around weird, but
I think it's just going over ones that you got wrong or something.
I don't know why it's doing it though. No, it's doing the right ones too. I don't know why it's all over the place. Hold on.
Yeah.
I just don't know why it's doing that. Or also, now it's doing it right. 20. So 22. All right, now it's doing it. Oh, I want to go over this one just because I got it right, but I knew it wasn't C or D. Like I'm pretty familiar with Sn2 reactions, but I don't know a lot of details between the two of them. I just know that the Sn2 reaction is the one where it occurs in one step, and Sn1's where it occurs in two steps.
And so if anything occurs in two steps, there's going to need to be like a carbocation, right?
Yeah.
And that means, and remember how we talked about like what type of carbocation is most stable? Like
vaguely.
So remember like primary, secondary, tertiary?
Yeah, the primary is the most stable, right?
Try to think about it in terms of charge, like
the most reactive, so unstable, never mind.
Yeah. So that's just because so tertiary it's that charge over a much larger area, right? So tertiary is going to be more stable as an ion. So if it's a two-step process, there's going to be a carbocation involved, right?
Yeah.
And so that means that something that's tertiary is likely going to be a two-step process. And if it's tertiary, it's also going to have steric hindrance, so that's going to make it less of a one-step process as well.
True.
So let's see. Best nucleophile. Okay. So let's see.
Well, I knew that nucleophile they mean
so you got this.
Nucleophile they mean leaving group, right?
Well, nucleophile is the thing that. So it's the thing that is attracted to. So a nucleus of something is like positive. So. Like a nucleus of an atom, right?
Yeah.
So a nucleophile is like negatively charged, or you can think of it as something that's very electronegative. AKA a Lewis, a lone pair donor. So a Lewis base. Like in the OneNote notebook for you, I kind of talk about like organic chem. Like I say, it's basically just how electrophiles and nucleophiles react. And a nucleophile, I write as like capital N with a negative. It doesn't have to be negative, but it's going to be, something that's more electronegative. And it's going to attack, so like it's going to attack something that's like partial positive and stuff. So yeah, and then I go over like the SN1 and stuff, but in a very like condensed way.
Okay. Like yeah, I think I took a look at it. Like I usually get these kind of questions right, just because I kind of understand. Like I know there's some rules you can memorize, but I think I kind of brute forced it. But like I knew it was a primary alcohol with the Sn2.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew to go with a Protic solvent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And isn't E1 versus E2 just have to do with the double bonds? E1's like, is it to remove a single bond, or one's to remove a double bond? I'm already forgetting that.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen very many questions come up on that, but
yeah. So for a second, can you let me like share my screen?
You can
show you here. So you see this over here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna just quickly, so like organic chem is how electrophiles, I write like capital E with a plus sign, and nucleophiles, capital N with a negative sign, react. An electrophile is essentially a Lewis acid, which is an electron pair acceptor. Nucleophile is a Lewis base, which is an electron pair donator or donor. So I'm gonna skip this part for a sec. So basically, like, ask yourself this. Like, number one, does the nucleophile attack first, or does the leaving group leave first? So, if the nucleophile attacks first, it's Sn2. If the leaving group leaves first, it's Sn1. And if it's at a high temperature, there could be elimination. So, if it's high temperature with an acid, it'll be E1. High temperature with a base, E2. So Sn2, quickly, basically, it's a strong nucleophile, this guy over here. Backside attacks a less hindered electrophile, which means, primary or secondary, right? It's going to attack that guy. Forming a high energy, unstable, 5-ligand transition state. You don't have to remember the 5-ligand part, but this is this transition state, right? Very unstable. And then, followed by a single and anti, you don't have to worry about that, but yeah, basically like this. So this happens in one step. So, this is like the energy, whatever diagram, reactant, product. The transition state is one hump, and that's the highest energy portion. And yes, it works in polar aprotic solvents. So like this, which is an ether or a ketone. All right, now if the electrophile, right, is sterically hindered, so like tertiary and then secondary, the weak nucleophile waits until the leaving group leaves, forming a 3-ligand intermediate, which is different from a transition state. Transition state cannot exist like this, cannot exist by itself, like as a molecule. An intermediate, however, can. So this is an example, right? This is a tertiary compound with a leaving group here, Lg. And so first, the leaving group leaves. So you have this guy here, which is a tertiary carbocation. It's, R1, R2, R3, and positive charge, so carbocation. And so that's what happens first. That's the first step, right? The leaving group leaves. And this is the intermediate over here. And then the nucleophile can attack from either side of this planar carbocation intermediate. So it forms a racemic mixture. So that's the second step. So protic solvents, if it's secondary, there's a possibility for rearrangement. So basically, reactants products, you'll see two humps, which indicate the transition states. And the intermediate is this, valley between these two humps. Because the intermediate can exist by itself, so it's less energy than the transition states. I didn't draw the transition states.
That makes a lot more sense. I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
With the stereochondrites and everything, why it's a two-step. That makes a lot more sense. I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
That was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, E2, all right, whatever. I'll skip E2 and E1. So I write down how to tell. So number one, you can look at the number of R groups on the substrate. So if it's primary, it's going to be either Sn2 or E2. Secondary, it could be either. Tertiary, it's going to be Sn1 or E1. Possibly E2. Don't worry about that too much. Strength of the base or nucleophile, solvent type. So protic. Essentially, if it's protic, right, it's going to take this carbocation, right? If it's protic, right, meaning that there's H's, it's going to stabilize this carbocation. So protic stabilizes a carbocation intermediate, so Sn1 or E1. If it's polar aprotic, it's going to be Sn2. Then I say heat, basically just it turns it into E, elimination stuff. And let's see. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll go through that one more time. That made a little bit more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can share your screen again, and we can look at that problem. All right. So nucleophile, right? So okay. So you know that it's going to be primary, right? And alcohol, because we're looking for something that's a pretty strong nucleophile, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah, that makes it easier to answer it now. Right away. I knew it was primary because I think isn't primary a better leading group?
Well, since we're doing Sn2, we're not going to have any leaving groups. Oh wait, what are you saying? Oh, just primary just means that it is going to. So first of all, it means that it's going to be, if something's primary, it's not going to be a good leaving group. Because
I keep saying leaving. I need to say nucleophile is what I need to be saying.
Oh. Well, yeah. So nucleophile, you can. So I didn't go over that part in what I showed you, but it's also there. That could be roughly based on its electronegativity. So OH, for instance, oxygen is very electronegative, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a pretty strong nucleophile.
That's what I meant to say. I think I keep saying leaving group. I don't know why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
I'm having flashbacks to Wargo and understand it, but I don't know the right words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I knew that because the alcohol is really strongly negative.
Yeah.
And then I think I remember the polar aprotic part being Sn2 only, which is how I knew to pick that, because that would have been this A and B were the same thing minus that.
Yeah, because just like NaCl, breaks apart in H2O, which is, and H2O is a polar protic solvent, right? And the protic aspect of it means that something with a charge gets really stabilized. So if anything is making a carbocation, right, or any type of ion, it gets stabilized when it's in a protic solvent.
Gotcha. And Sn1, just to clarify too, Sn1 is the only one where you form the carbocation intermediate, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. I understand that.
Yeah. So let me just see. Electron donating and electron withdrawing, right? So that's where the thing comes into how I define it, in terms of thinking of a nucleophile as an electron donor, electron pair donor, electrophile being an electron pair acceptor. So let's see. Attached to an electron donating. Oh, okay. So this is what it's attached to. So Okay, so electron donating groups and electron withdrawing groups. So electron donating groups basically donate. So this is going to be primary alcohol that's attached to something that's electron donating.
Okay.
So if it's donating electrons to that oxygen in that primary alcohol, that basically makes it a stronger nucleophile because it's getting more electrons basically given to it.
Gotcha.
If it's electron withdrawing, it's going to pull electron density away from that OH group, that primary alcohol, and it's going to be less strong of a nucleophile.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I got it right, but I want to make sure I really understood because this comes up a good bit, like this kind of.
Yeah. So do you see where it says answer B is incorrect because an electron withdrawing group will remove electron density from the oxygen?
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So yeah, so that's what this stuff means. Like an electron donating group will give electron density to the oxygen.
Gotcha.
So, that's what, if it was attached to, NO3 or something like that, right, versus, CH3, CH3 is electron donating, NO3 is electron withdrawing, so because I see, if you can figure it out, the first part, based on primary alcohol, but the second part is what is it attached to, electron donating or electron withdrawing. Oh, then it says protic, so I guess you can figure it out.
I actually didn't use that part just because I saw the aprotic and the other one.
Yeah. I just saw that now.
But I guess there was an extra. There were a lot of ways you could have gone about it if you missed. Yeah.
So let's say both of them were exactly the same, you can figure it out with So I just want you to know the electron donating and withdrawing effects.
Okay. So basically, the electron donating R group is giving its electrons to alcohol, which is making it a better nucleophile.
Correct.
Gotcha. I got this one wrong because my math was I solved it correctly, but I used my unit conversion wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this was milli.
Milli, yeah.
Milli, yeah. I moved my decimals wrong.
Okay. Because the other one is micro. And that's
I moved it over
to the -6.
I think I added something wrong or I don't know. I redid it and I saw what I did.
Okay.
This one I did not understand with the resistors. I didn't understand this.
Okay. So basically, it's exactly kind of what they're saying, but current and resistance are inversely proportional. Does that part make sense?
Yep.
All right. So if you want to increase if you want to increase current, the resistance must go up or down?
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
What was it again? If you increase what?
Oh, if you increase current, what happens to the resistance?
Aren't it goes down? Are they opposite?
Yeah, they're inverse proportion, right?
Yeah.
So resistance must go down. So we need to look at what would create a smaller, overall resistance. So the thing is that, I can go into the theory behind this because it's kind of based on, but actually I don't have to go into the theory. I can just, so you know how when you add resistors in parallel, you're adding reciprocal sums?
Yep.
So compare that to adding them in series where you're just straight up adding them.
Okay.
So if you add resistors in series, the overall resistance increases, right?
Okay.
But in parallel, since you're adding the reciprocals of them, the overall resistance decreases.
So I think part of the problem was like I knew these two were wrong. I knew the thickness of wire didn't change anything. Like I didn't understand. I think I was lost with the magnitude of the current, with the amount. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with isn't magnitude. I'm getting lost with like that term.
Oh,
magnitude.
So in physics, a vector has a magnitude and a direction.
Gotcha.
So a magnitude, just think of it as you don't care about the direction. So like absolute value, basically. So it's just saying increase the size.
The current.
So the current, yeah.
Like actually magnitude. Okay. I was not trying to overthink that, but so I knew it was these two, and I guess I didn't understand. I guess I wasn't sure how you knew if it was series or parallel.
Yeah.
Like I knew equations, what they were, but I just didn't understand how to know which one to pick.
Yeah. So, so let's say you have two resistors. One, let's say both of them are just, have a resistance of 2. So if they were in series, right, the equivalent resistance would be 2 plus 2, which is 4. Now, if they were in parallel, it'll be 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2.
Oh, so it'll
which
be
is
smaller?
1, yeah. Which is 2 over 2, which is just 1.
Okay, but how do I know? Because I'm confusing myself now because I'm saying increasing the current.
Yep.
Is that going back to me with the V is IR?
Yeah, they're inversely proportional, yeah.
Okay, so to increase current, so to increase current, we decrease resistance. And this would decrease resistance because of the fraction.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. I just didn't understand that.
Yeah. So that's
like I knew the concept, but I didn't understand the wording of the question. Like, I never. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
that wasn't that hard. I just didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I could you could figure that out from the formula, but I don't know if you want to know like the theory aspect of it. But the theory aspect just basically means like resistance is essentially like length over cross-sectional area. Now, if you can like just imagine like a wire, right, and electrons are going through the wire and they're brushing across, the copper atoms or whatever the wire is made out of. So if it's a longer wire, it's going to be a higher resistance because electrons are going to be brushing across more copper atoms, right? But if it's a wider, wider kind of wire, then the electrons have more room to go in different directions, so they don't have to brush across those copper atoms. So essentially what you're doing if you add resistors in series is you're making a very long resistor. So that means the resistance goes up. Whereas if you add them in parallel, you get essentially a wide resistor. So the resistance goes down.
Without going to like insane detail, I just learned this week. It's like I'm already not. We didn't spend a lot of time on capacitors when I was in physics, like we did, but like the formulas are opposite. Like if it's in series with a capacitor, it's the fraction. Like like 1 over C1 or plus
So this kind of goes in with what I was saying before about the. So if you add resistors in series, you increase the length. If you add them in parallel, you increase the area, right? The width, kind of. Okay. So a capacitor, right? It's based on, how it gets, the capacitance increases with area. Like the plate, the wider the plate, the more charge it can store, right? So for capacitors, when you add them in series, right? The overall capacitance, since you're adding, adding anything in series just means you're making it longer. Adding anything in parallel means you're making it wider. So that's why they're pretty much flipped.
Okay. Oh, I got this one wrong, and they said it was a trick question or whatever. Material of which the external resistor is constructed an example of. I went with like insulator right away. and they were like, "Oh, this is a trick question because if it's an insulator, then it's not going to conduct any electricity or whatever."
Well, yeah. Well, what's the trick part? Let me see.
They said a lot of people went with C instinctively.
I mean, I see a conductor and an insulator. I don't see anything with capacitor or inductor, but I haven't seen the passage where they mention it. External resistor, fuel cell initiated by connecting the anode and cathode through an external resistor, while the voltage.
No, I think
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just you didn't have to use the passage. I think it was just like I think that people like myself mistaked like thinking resistance, like the resistor.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's why it's a conduct. That's why it's an insulator because it was resisting.
Yeah.
And like yeah.
Got it.
Because I knew that yeah.
All right. Yeah. So think of a resistor as something that conducts electricity so well that it inhibits the electron flow of the circuit.
Yeah, that was me like not knowing physics that great.
No, I think they're just trying to trick you with.
I just saw resistor, like
resistor,
resistor. Yeah. That's an insulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not like I didn't think of it conducting.
Yeah.
I know now. I have learned a lot of stuff from LTS.
That's good. That's very good.
Yeah, this was that formula I was talking about. That the E is 1/2 CD squared. I remembered that.
Mm-hmm.
I know I got this one wrong. Where it was. Hold on, there's just a couple more.
Yep.
48. Oh yeah, this one. I have a hard time with these kind of weird physicsy ones. Like
this is kind of like what we were talking about with the sound waves.
Except yeah, it was. I still have a hard time with that.
So light is fastest when it's in a vacuum, aka space, aka nothing's in its way. So in a cuvette, it's going to be glass or plastic or whatever. Water, right? All that stuff is going to slow it down.
Yeah, I was conceptually like really overwhelmed here. I was like, which one is it? Because it was like all over. I was like, crap. Mm-hmm. I really didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, does it make sense that light is going to go slower in a medium?
I didn't think of it that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I was trying to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, we said sound travels faster through a denser medium, so light travels slower through a denser medium.
Mm-hmm.
So the cuvette would be denser than the water, right? Or just it would be slowed down, but
yeah. So like,
it wouldn't be sped up. Okay.
Oh yeah,
because I compared to these two right away.
So
I wasn't thinking of it correctly. I was like, oh crap, what all these things do?
Oh yeah.
Like I was overthinking it. So that got rid of C and D.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be sped up, right? Because it's still more dense.
Yeah. So like it seems like you're going from air to glass, and then there's water inside, like the cuvette.
Yeah. Well, I really overthought that question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Didn't understand this. When they mentioned, I was kind of thinking they were talking about...
This is like like the same thing as like your eyeglass prescription. That's measured in diopters.
Yeah, I didn't know
so if it's negative, it's you're nearsighted. Positive, you're farsighted. Like my glasses prescription is minus 2.75. So, all right, anyway, let's see.
Glad you remembered that. I'm going to pay attention to what my glass prescription is.
Oh yeah, just because it's in the same units. Diopter.
Yeah, I had no idea what that was. I was just like trying to get through it. I was like, this is.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was optics. I was like, I don't know what this is.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's basically the inverse or like the reciprocal of whatever, the focal length.
Okay.
In meters, I think. I think so, yeah. So, all right, let's see. When the focus, right, is adjusted between negative 8.5 and positive 8.0, the camera is most likely... Okay. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Cataract surgery. So... Okay. To measure lenses characteristics prior to surgery, a photograph is imaged through an IOL, an intraocular lens, which is the artificial lens implanted in the eye, which is it's the artificial lens placed in a water-filled cuvette, okay? A monochrome video camera that can be focused via remote laptop from negative 8.5 to positive 8.0 diopters. 1 over meters. Oh, okay, so 1 over meter. Okay, so is used to capture the image and display it on a computer screen. Okay. Natural distance between it's 18 edge of the cornea. Okay. All right, and then I see something. Okay, so they're saying what happens to all right? So what is being done to the camera as it goes from that focus to the other focus? So, let's think. Alright, not moving versus moving toward and away to match the focal length, to alter the focal point. I think the camera's focal point stays the same, but if you move it, you get... So I think they're trying to, let's see. Natural lens and the retina, 18 millimeters. Lens and the outer edge, okay. Alright, so they're trying to basically figure out where to place the artificial lens during cataract surgery. So they have a photograph imaged through that artificial lens, which is in a water-filled cuvette, okay? And then the monochrome video camera can be focused from that to capture the image and display it on a computer screen, okay? Moving toward and away from the image to match the focal length. Not moving. Okay, so I don't know if you'd be able to figure it out from the passage where they say that where they say the diopter is 1 over m. So it's the inverse of something. Like they're saying that the other values are in millimeters, right?
Okay.
So this is an inverse value. So okay. And the focal length is the distance between the lens and the focal point. Okay. So, okay. So the passage is basically telling me that they're doing this to figure out what is the ideal placement of the artificial lens, like where to place it in your eye, in order for it to cause the light to focus onto the retina. So, okay, so let's see. Can be monochrome video camera focused. Can be focused via remote laptop. From that to that. The diopters thing. Damn. Yeah, I'm trying to see like how you can figure out the diopter part. Like how you would know that the diopter is 1 over focal length.
Yeah, I've never seen a physics passage like this. Yeah.
I
don't know physics like that well. Like, I mean, I was never taught physics in this way. Like, you like really have to read this kind of dense stuff and then like conceptually really know.
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm just.
I don't know. Like I said, I gave up on this one because I just randomly picked D. Like I was like, I have no idea how to get to the answer. I think I did go here. I was like, I have no idea what to do.
Yeah, I guess, me knowing what diopter means makes it easier for me. I don't see how you would be able to figure it out.
I never learned what a diopter was in physics. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we learned the basics of all the different lenses and mirrors and the formula and how to calculate. We didn't go into this much depth because, like, we were going so fast for all the materials. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think this one is
great practice question.
Maybe in some note write down what a diopter is.
Yeah, what is a diopter?
It's the inverse of the focal length, and it's meant to measure the power of the lens. So what I use is just to know, when you know your prescription for your glasses. I know you wear glasses, so whatever number that they give you, it's measured in diopters.
Okay. You said it was used to measure the power of what?
Oh, of a lens.
Okay. Well, makes sense. Okay.
So that means that basically what I'm looking at is that it goes from negative to positive, right? So that means that the focal length is going from a negative number to a positive number, aka that's why for like nearsightedness, like it's a negative value because it's basically making a virtual image. And a positive number, it's making a real image. Because if we're nearsighted, we get lenses that have a diverging. We use diverging lenses, and diverging lenses make virtual images. So it would be a negative value. If you remember, like the drawings I made, where for us, if we're nearsighted, the image, the image basically gets focused in front of our retina. So we need it to go further back. Yeah. This one, I'm going to just screenshot it, and if I come up with a better way of explaining it, I will write it in your notebook.
I mean, I don't see how a lot of people would get that question right.
Yeah. So
I mean, unless you were like a physics major, like I can see maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I come up with like a good way of explaining it, I will. But I already screenshotted it and then added it to the notebook.
Okay.
Under problems. Okay.
I have tried to teach myself optics.
Oh yeah, this is the thing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I've tried to teach myself optics, and like I always forget how to remember if it's like I try to memorize it, and, like I honestly just don't get it.
Okay.
Like I think I memorized it for physics and did fine. It's just like I never understood it.
Yeah.
Like how you remember if it's real inverted, real upright, and like all that. If there's a better way to understand it, or
yeah, I made like a thread on Reddit about optics that I can share with you.
Yeah.
And it's something that I write down, like in the like if I were to like take the MCAT, I would write it down. Like diverging always makes SUV, which is smaller upright virtual, and then converging will start with like very small inverted real, and then like same size inverted real, and then like basically like that kind of thing.
So this is something I'm just gonna have to like kind of like put in my noggin and memorize.
Yeah, and also the connection to whether it's positive or negative is another part. Because if it's positive, I was saying that before, like, positive means it's going to make a real image. And real images are always, well, here, I'll add that to the notebook. They use different acronyms. PRI, positive, real, and inverted. Oh, I see. Well, okay. But it's basically what I was saying, but so if it's a positive number, it's going to be a real image. Negative number, it's going to be a virtual image. So that's how I was kind of like the previous question. If it's going from negative diopter to positive, it's going from a virtual image to a real image. So lens A from figure 1 is a positive lens, so it will have to be real. Oh, yeah. And real is always inverted, and virtual is always upright. So just remember, I'll send you the thing, like the Reddit post I made about optics. That should help explain most of it. But add on to that the fact that positive numbers refer to real images and negative numbers refer to virtual.
All right, yeah, I'll have to just remember it because I had to do it for physics and I understand. I just remember it's like HNMR, like spectroscopy stuff. You just have to like memorize, and like this was the only thing in physics. Like I didn't mind it. It wasn't hard. It just was like it wasn't very. I don't know. It wasn't as intuitive. Like some of the other. Mathematics is super intuitive.
I put the link in the chat for you.
Okay.
So it's a post where I talk about this.
Copy it. Oh wait, there we go. So make sure I had it open. Okay. All right, cool. That one was easy. There's only like one easy question on that one. Yeah, they get really intense with the graphs and stuff, which has been good practice for me.
Yeah. It looks like a mess, everything I see.
This question, like, I really disagreed with and did not understand it. Like, the role of insulin in the cascade.
Yeah, it's the primary because it's the first one that starts it.
Is it? Because I was like Googling it. I almost went with the primary and I was Googling.
If it's a receptor antagonist, it would work against this entire pathway. It'll make the pathway not happen.
Because I was like Googling it and I thought I read somewhere that like the insulin wasn't just a primary messenger. Okay, like I was seeing stuff like it's something, I don't know, like I was seeing stuff that was conflicting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In terms of like a second messenger like system.
That's like cyclic AMP, like that's like what GCP binds and all that. Like
mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a hormone binds to its receptor.
So the hormone is the first thing. So
Oh snap! I was overthinking that because so all the endocrine hormones then are going to be primary.
Yeah, if they work in this way, because there's like the steroid hormones that don't work using a second messenger. They just go straight in. They go straight past the cell membrane. They go right past the nuclear membrane. They go right into the nucleus, and they affect transcription. So not all hormones, like the steroid hormones, work differently, like because they're nonpolar, right?
Yeah.
But the ones that can't, that are not nonpolar, they need to attach to a receptor, and then it starts the cascade.
Gotcha. Yeah, like even when I took biochem, we didn't get.
It says that not a steroid hormone, but sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, like we didn't even get that in depth when I took biochem. Like we just said a hormone binds to its ligand, activates G-coupled protein receptor, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even get. So I was like starting to overthink this a lot, but I knew it wasn't. I didn't think it was second messenger because I didn't think it had anything to do with. I didn't see anything about cyclic AMP and all that here. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a G-coupled protein receptor. That would be second messenger, right?
Yeah, I think there's different versions of it. Like
that's
why I was also getting one. There's like some other one. I think there's a couple of different like second messaging.
I haven't seen one besides the G-coupled protein as far as the MCAT goes. Like,
maybe this one. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never seen this one before.
There's like I don't know. In my reference books, I have like the different types or whatever. But yeah, it should make sense in terms of if it's a second messenger, like the first one is the primary one. But yeah. Okay, yeah. There's a G protein one. There's like a tyrosine. Or no. Yeah. Insulin is not a G protein one. It's a tyrosine kinase. It's slightly different. I don't know if that's easy to see. Wait, sorry. So.
Okay.
So you see how this one up top is G protein, but then underneath, on the bottom, insulin?
Yeah.
And it says it's a tyrosine kinase, so that's a different type of second messenger system.
Yeah, I didn't get into all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I was
and then the steroid, like, let's see if that focuses. Like a steroid, like, base... Jeez, it's not focusing. Steroid basically just goes straight past the membrane, goes right into the nucleus, and affects transcription.
Are those your notes from school, or are they just notes of yours?
Yeah. This is like some like MCAT stuff when I was like studying for it.
When I took biochem, we were like super in depth on certain things that she obviously liked researching. And then like I didn't get a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, this is like just for reference.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when I took my notes, like I think I told you, like I looked at like different like multiple sources, different textbooks and stuff, so I get like the definitive right answer.
Yeah, I have a good biochem book. I can't remember. It starts with L. It's the one. Yeah, that's the one we used.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah, I have Leninger biochem. I have Lodish Molecel. I have another biochem by Garrett and Grisham. I have Anatomy and Physiology by Saladin, which is excellent. So, when I would like really want to like know how something works, I would like consult like those types of textbooks and stuff, get like a definitive.
Yeah, I just listen to my teacher say stuff over and over again. Like I don't know, like how was like when I took like. It was like you just do what they say and memorize everything they say and you're good. Because like we had to write when I took biochem, we had to write essays like during the exam. Like you would get a STEM and you had to write everything you knew about it, and like she would take off for things that you didn't discuss and all stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I learned a lot, but it didn't help for the MCAT that much.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we have like about 10 minutes left? How long do we have?
Yeah, we can do, because we're so far 2 hours 16 minutes, so we can do like 15 or like 14 minutes to do like the 2.5.
I didn't review, or yeah, I did review this. Hold on. There's a question at the end of this I want to ask you first. I think most of these bio ones I knew. I wish there was a way to better skip, but you can't do it from here. Oh, I didn't realize, like when I was taking it, was it this one? No, wait, there was one about threonine. I didn't realize threonine was a polar amino acid, and I realized it is.
Remember
like I knew,
STY?
No, but
STY, the ones that get phosphorylated?
Yeah, no, I got it. No, like, and I knew it had an OH group, and I still went like, let me try to find it. I was between two answers, and I couldn't remember because it was saying like go from non-polar to polar. Let me try to find it.
Yeah.
Just so I say it out loud, so I don't get it wrong again. Just a way to do this. They had some pretty, like, this one was hard. Like, this, it's almost this, like, half of this test 6 was, like, immunology.
Yeah.
It was really intense stuff, because I didn't take immunology. Some of the stuff you really had to know. Like, like, a lot of the stuff I wouldn't have gotten right. Like, I didn't even read the passage. I just knew a lot of stuff about gut microbiota and stuff, and I was like,
interesting.
Yeah. This one was this was a tough one. Because, like, it went in so much depth with this rank out. It was not fun.
Oh, yeah. For these types of passages, like, I can, like, maybe next time go over the way that I take notes on them.
So, and I actually went over this with somebody, like, out loud because I got mad, like, really upset. Like,
yeah.
She basically saw, like, somebody, like, saw this as, like, use this to answer it instead of all of this. But, like, when you were reading it, it was going in circles and it was really hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
I guess I could, sketch it.
Yeah, I usually sketch it. I write, like, you know, I draw,
maybe
like,
next time this would be a good one to go over with you. This passage, we can do that.
Yeah, let me take a screenshot of it.
I'll go back.
I'll throw it in the notebook. All right. Okay.
And yeah, okay. It was only that question. What the heck, wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, like passages like that are just full of like acronyms and stuff. Yeah, I like draw out, so I'll show you that, like how I do that.
Like this one, yeah, I forgot like about the RH factor and all that stuff.
Oh, that's what the positive and negative mean.
Yeah, it's really easy, but I forgot it. Which is funny. My mom's actually a laboratory like technologist and blood bank, and she's like, "This is not how this works because it was not correct." Yeah, they didn't talk about all the different types of the RH factors. I'm trying to find it. Maybe this is one I did good on. I can't remember. Skip to the end. Might have been at the beginning. Oh, this question I got right, but I was really torn and I don't understand their thought process. I just think their question wasn't worded well in the answers. So protein folding involves a transition from a more disordered state to a more ordered state. Yeah. This entropic penalty does not prevent spontaneous folding because why? Well, like I read all the answers and I knew it was between these two. Yeah. And it was the net S is large and positive, resulting in negative. Well, I knew obviously negative delta G meant it was spontaneous. But then you had to get the first stem right, and the only difference was the net delta S is large and positive versus the net delta S of the surroundings is positive.
Yeah, so it's like delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Yeah. So if delta S is large and positive, then it can be so large that it'll take away from whatever the delta H is.
Okay, that's why I went against it, because in my, like, I didn't say it exactly that way, but in my mind I was thinking if the entropy is so large, then it's gonna keep it from folding.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would keep it from folding, right? If it was too large.
Oh, so if it was too large, then
that's what the A said.
Yeah, then
that's large and positive.
Yeah, so it could result in a negative delta G in that case, but let's see. They're saying. Oh wait. They're saying. More disordered state to a more ordered state. So. Okay, so that means that final entropy. Wait a sec. Not prevent. Alright, so that's wrong, because the delta S is not going to be positive, because positive means that because delta S is entropy final minus entropy initial, and if it's going from a disordered state to an ordered state, the delta S should be negative. But the difference between A and B is that A is talking about the delta S, B is talking about the delta S of the surroundings.
Oh, okay.
Because the delta S of this actual process is negative. Because it's going from... Because disordered means higher entropy. Ordered means lower entropy. So you have a lower entropy value, that's final, minus a higher entropy value, that's initial. That's going to give you a negative delta S.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now.
So it's just because the surroundings is positive.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to hunt down that last one. Oh, like this question? Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Oh, am I going out? Actually, I went out. Hold on. I don't want opening crap. Where the heck is... Try to get back to my viewing. Where is... I'll see Zoom on here. Why am I not doing it right? Oh, Safari. Duh. All right. Anyway, let me go back. This one, I didn't know what globular proteins were. Like, I mean, it kind of sounds like they aggregate or something.
Yeah, there's going to be globular proteins and then like membrane proteins.
Yeah.
Like
the compound A is cytotoxic towards cancer cells due to its ability to block. So I went up here and read anti-cancer properties by interfering with dynamics of tubulin. And then the CA4 inhibits the polymerization of tubulin by binding to the colchicine, whatever, site, resulting in arrest of cell mitosis. So I was thinking of mitosis and about the tubulin because I knew that was like involved. I knew nucleotide polymerization was wrong because that would like do with like DNA and stuff that didn't have anything to do with us.
Yeah, that's going to be inside of the nucleus.
I knew it wasn't blocking the synthesis of this. So okay. I was between A and C, and I didn't know that it was blocking globular proteins or how I could pick that up from here. So I went with the hydrolysis.
Where they talk about compound 8? Oh, I see. Okay. They're saying investigators additional chemotherapeutic drugs using CA4 analogs using scheme 1. Okay. All right. So figure 1, CA4 and compound 2, which is an isomer of that, and then scheme 1 is how to make CA4 and compounds 8 through 11, it seems. Okay. So, and they're analogs, so they should be working the same way CA4 works, I believe. And they says CA4 works by the interfering with the dynamics of tubulin. So it inhibits the polymerization of tubulin. So do they say anything else? Do they say anything about globular proteins?
Nowhere.
Oh, like anywhere in there?
Yeah, nowhere. That's why I didn't go with it. Cause it's like, okay. Oh, well, this is. Yeah, I thought. Yeah.
So basically, like, so it's going to inhibit the polymerization of tubulin, and we have to figure out what that means. So if you're able to like cross out nucleotide polymerization and colchicnion or whatever synthesis, let's see, assembly of globular proteins and hydrolysis of tubulin polymers. Well, hydrolysis of tubulin polymers, right, would be the breaking down of tubulin, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like since it inhibits the polymerization, which is the making of tubulin polymers.
It would inhibit the cancer maybe because cancer is like growing, like growth.
Well, like, if it says that it inhibits the polymerization of tubulin and hydrolysis of tubulin polymers is the breaking down of it, then it wouldn't block the hydrolysis of tubulin polymers, right?
Yeah, and I guess I was leaning towards that because it kept talking about tubulin.
Yeah, so there's going to be a leap here where like you have to basically think that if you inhibit the polymerization of tubulin, it's going to block the making of some type of protein.
I think if I had just read it as blocking the assembly of proteins instead of trying to think of what there was, because I didn't.
Yeah.
And I think the tubulin just threw me off because we kept talking about it, and I knew that it was involved, like because they were talking about, like the cell, the rest of the cell cycle and any holes that involved and stuff. So like that just threw me off.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Like if you just looked at it as it blocks the assembly of proteins, the globular element just kind of like I think could have thrown you off. Because then it makes you think, well, wait, which one is a globular protein? Blah, blah, blah.
And it says, but I didn't know this because I was immediately thinking about microtubules actually, because when they mentioned tubulin and like and everything, but like I didn't. Yeah, like I didn't. Yeah, and it didn't talk about in the passage. Like I know, like this is just learning, but I don't want to miss questions like this. Like,
but does it make sense that the hydrolysis of tubulin polymers means that you're breaking down the tubulin?
I guess I got it in my mind somehow. Like breaking it down would block. It said, I guess I only read this part. I guess I was thinking it would interfere with the dynamics of tubulin by breaking it down. Like in my head, like.
So it does break it down, but since it says that it will block, if it blocks the breaking down of tubulin, then it should make tubulin, right?
Yeah. But I guess, too, should I have looked at inhibits polymerization?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Made a protein. Like, maybe I should have looked at that and not looked at it.
So, like...
I guess I was trying to confirm this was true or not by looking at where it talks about that. And I think polymerization.
Yeah, so that's true, but it's asking, like, if it would block that. So if it blocks the thing that breaks down the polymerization of tubulin, then it wouldn't do what it's supposed to do, which is inhibit polymerization of tubulin, right?
Okay.
If it said the synthesis or the dehydration synthesis of tubulin polymers, that would be right then, because it would block that.
All right. Cool deal. But I feel like I'm getting better. Like I'm missing.
You are.
Thing. Yeah.
Definitely.
So we'll see what happens. I'll try. I'm on like FL7 now for Altius. I'm just skipping their cars.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Saturday or Sunday, I'll try to take in AMC and see how I'm doing.
Okay.
All right. Cool deal.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Take care. Okay.
Thanks. All right. Bye.
See ya.